Hey folks, this is Rekatan again, and you are watching RekStarcraft. I am going to be casting a 1 versus 1 between myself, Rekatan, and my opponent, Axloth. And actually, I don't know his rating. I'll look it up here after the cast. I'll even just record me looking it up. But he should be 3,000 plus masters. He was favored against me, so currently even is about 3,000 masters for me. This was played on Europe, and actually I'm going to go ahead and get this started since nothing too terribly interesting will be going on for a bit. I'm going to get it switched over to my view because that's how I like to cast these. This was played on the Europe server, which I'm actually having quite a bit of fun on. And so it's been pretty cool. Actually, my volume is a little high. It's been pretty cool playing on the Europe server. I think I'm running about 65 to 68% win rate. So that is especially nice. Actually, I still don't think that's low enough. So I'm sorry if this volume is too low, but I'd rather have it too low than too high. Whatever, 49%. My OCD can deal. So yeah, I've been actually running a pretty high win rate and matching against nothing but 3,000 plus masters. I'm currently like 850 masters on it, just because I don't have time to accumulate the points necessary. So I probably won't get anywhere too terribly high up on it before Season 2 starts. That's some exciting news. Season 2 will be starting very soon. They haven't outright said when it's going to be, but when I was playing on the PTR to make my Infestor video, right then and there, like literally, I got disconnected, I logged back in, and I had to play a placement match, and it put me in Grandmaster. So they are testing the process of placing into Grandmaster, and they have announced that you will have 2 weeks after the season starts to qualify for Grandmaster. So that is all kind of exciting. I like it that you have a qualification period as well, because that means, people like myself who are stockpiled, 500 bonus pool, and I can't see myself spending it if I'm practicing on the MLG maps regularly as well. I can't see myself spending it before the reset. So this will give me an opportunity to still potentially place in Master, or Grandmaster. So hopefully that hits right after MLG. That would be kind of nice so that I can really just hammer out the ladder matches. Okay, so I am opening up with a 14 extractor, 14 pool, and this was actually reactionary. I was planning on doing a hatch first, but then I saw his SCV arrive, and I realized, if he wants to, he can block it. And my minerals lined up perfectly to where I could actually go ahead and spend those minerals on extractor and pool and one drone. So I didn't really set myself too far back. It just turned into a speedling expand rather than a hatch first. So that's kind of a nifty little trick. If you see their SCV coming in at the right time, it just takes some quick coordination. And now I'm taking my hatchery at 17 supply, and I actually shouldn't have engaged that drone. That kind of set him off to the fact that I was taking the Expo, and so that actually wasn't too good of an idea, but that's okay. It didn't hurt me too much because he just ended up fighting a little bit. He could have danced it a bit, but he chose not to. So I'm grabbing my queen at 18. Oh, and I guess I didn't even mention why I'm casting this. I'm actually going to be casting a few Zerg versus Terrans here in the near future. All ladder matches that I've been having while practicing for MLG. And the reason that I'm going to be doing that is I came to realize that I have a lot of ZVP and some ZVZ, but really very little ZVT on both my YouTube casts and also on game replays. So I figured I should go ahead and start casting some ZVT, especially since I've been having some students and whatnot who have been having a lot of trouble with it. So I'm going to be picking out some things exclusively that people have trouble with and displaying how to get around it. So not too terribly much going on. I guess on that note, if anyone is interested in Zerg coaching, I offer coaching professionally, so go to RekStarcraft.com. It is my full-time job, so I take it very seriously. Except for when I don't take it seriously, because anyone who's worked with me before knows that I can sometimes be a complete moron on vent, just because, I don't know, it's a lot more fun if you act like a moron. But anyways, tangent over. Okay, so anyways, I'll go ahead and start manually controlling it now that we've actually got some things going on. And so I'm checking the front, and I see Tech Lab and Factory, and so immediately I'm thinking, okay, are you Blue Flame or are you Siege Tanks? And thus in comes the Overlord, and I'm very fortunate that he's not doing proper marine positioning here. He actually had a Marine here, and he pulled it back, I believe, when I put my Zergling up front. And there is some shenanigans you can pull with that. Notice I'm positioning a Zergling here, and I'm going to be pulling some more of those shenanigans here in a second. When his Marines come up to kill my Overlord, I put my Zergling up here and see if there are any other units sitting at the front. And what you can do is actually get a pretty good census of how many total Marines the player has built up thus far, between what is shooting down your Overlord and what kills the Zergling at the front of their base. So that's kind of a neat little trick as well that you can take advantage of even if you don't get it from before. So here comes the Zergling, and I see 1, 2 Marines, 1 Siege Tank, and so I can in total say he has 6 Marines, 1 Siege Tank, and I have also confirmed Blue Flame is not going to be happening. I have already started my +1 melee. Had I seen Blue Flame, I would cancel it and go ahead and +1 missile. And in fact, this +1 melee I think started right as I confirmed no Blue Flame. I would have canceled it, started +1 missile, and scrambled out a Roach Warren and prayed to God it came up in time for the push. The Zerglings can hold the Blue Flame for a little bit, but eventually you do need Roaches. But generally, Blue Flame is just going to hit a lot sooner than this, so I was already fairly confident that it was a Siege Tank Marine push. So here we are at 7.5 minutes into the game, and that's the point that you want to say, okay, there's definitely a push coming. He would be expanding by now. My Overlord did not see a command center prepping. My Zergling did not see a command center floating over. Nothing indicates he wants to expand. So notice I have completely discontinued drone production. So if we check the income tab, I'm at 32 drones, and that is just fine. What you want to do is, if you're going to discontinue drone production for any long amount of time, and you know they're on one base, just make sure you make just 1 or 2 more than 30. You know, 32 is perfect, because that means he physically cannot mine more than me. I mean, he has mules, but off of SCVs, he physically cannot mine faster than me off of one base. It's impossible. So, by default, I have a macro advantage, even though I'm making nothing but Zerglings. And to help kind of extend that macro advantage, I'm now taking the gold, because I expect to crush this push if I read him correctly. If I did not read him correctly, and that Hellion actually scared me a little bit, I thought maybe he was going to show some sort of a late Hellion involvement in his push. But if I read him incorrectly, then it could be a little squirrely. Nevertheless, I'm reading Siege Tank Marine, and I'm confirming it now. And indeed, that is a lot of Marines, that is a lot of Siege Tanks. He's pushing at 9 minutes, though, so that's pretty late. So here I'm preparing my flank, and this actually is a little too far back, but I didn't want to be seen if he went into the center and took the Xel'Naga. But the second I noticed he wasn't going for the Xel'Naga, I should have been closer to around here. A lot better flanking position, especially because, it looks like he's prepping some elevator fire. But here comes the flank. I come in immediately as he starts to siege up, and we get a pretty solid surround. Notice my +1 is finished, so that's really helping clean this up. You really do need that +1 if you're going to counter a Siege Tank Marine push in this fashion, because if it involves medevacs, as this did, that +1 attack is really going to help out DPS the heal. And so now I'm just rallying Speedlings, and I expect him to be expanding behind this. I really expect to walk in here and see a command center dropping down. And the dialogue for this game is pretty funny. He actually turned out to be pretty nice. We chatted afterwards. But in-game, he was a little strange. So yeah, I can't help but fire back that he's still on one base at 10 minutes, and that seems even worse than making nothing but Zerglings. But anyways, so what am I doing now? Well, I'm getting a Baneling Nest just in case he leaves himself open to a bust, but I saw a Siege Tank already up there with a great positioning. It is very hard to bust Shattered Temple, so I don't really recommend it too terribly much, but you always want to have the option available just in case. And notice I'm actually pumping out a lot more Speedlings. Well, why am I doing this? Because I've had a lot of times where I will repel a push and I'll say, okay, I am safe to drone up. And then they prep another all-in and win. And so I like to make a couple spawn cycles of Speedlings or Roaches or whatever I repelled the push with after I've repelled, just to make sure I'm extra safe. Okay, so he has another drop coming in here, drops a Siege Tank with it, but that extra spawn cycle of Speedlings saves the day. Had I gone straight drones, then that could have been a little trickier. I would have, I probably would have had enough, queens, 3 queens and 10 Speedlings. So maybe I overmade Speedlings a little bit, but I'd rather be too safe than not safe enough, especially when I'm so far ahead between having the gold, having 3 bases to his 1. I still confirm he has only 1. He could have floated over here, but not too common, but that may come in later. And now the drones are popping out. So I'm now 21 drones up on him. And this is where it gets pretty comfy for me. I would say that the odds of me losing this game, if I play it very safe, are, 1 out of 10 tops. Probably less, probably 1 out of 20. Because he already lost so much with the push, and he's already so far behind on macro. Just because, it was a pretty tough push, but I hit that window where I had enough speedlings prepped that, right at the end, you notice I had like 5 speedlings left, and that was really how you want it to be. You'd want just enough speedlings to stop the push. And then the rally can go ahead and handle the counterattack. Now, this is a style of Zerg versus Terran that you see a lot of the pros use, and I've been trying to wrap my head around it and see if I can start using it as well. Drone up extremely hard after you've repelled any sort of aggression, and then just play very defensive. Very defensive. And it's completely contrary to a lot of the stuff I've always felt about StarCraft, where I like to play very aggressive and, shove banelings down their throat. But it works really well. So if anyone's having a lot of trouble with Zerg versus Terran, give this a try. You're just going to drone real hard. You're going to try and always stay one base up. And your goal is to just crush every push they send out. The second they get on creep, the second they siege up, whatever that may be, hit that timing tool. You can crush it and counter. Wash, rinse, and repeat, and eventually they're going to wear down. So we notice I'm almost double his economy. Mules are doing their job despite the fact I've got the gold, but I'm way up on gas. And that's necessary because I made a muta transition here. And this muta transition I found is very strong when you're ahead. I experiment a lot with lack of mutas. I love, pure speedling, baneling, roach, or something to that degree. But when you're ahead, nothing makes you more ahead like some muta harass. It really does pay off. Especially in a situation like this where they've already committed to a push, and so their economy is so far behind them, like this, they're going to risk not making turrets. He's got the engineering there. He's had it for quite a while, guys. But he didn't make the turrets. He gambled, and it's not paying off now. And I noticed there's not a lot of SCVs there, so I know there's been a transfer. But now, this is actually a case where I didn't think things flew too terribly clearly. Where was that transfer to? And I'm going to pause real quick. Because, okay, I broke these rocks, thinking ahead, thinking he's going to take his third down the road, he's going to take his natural first. I want to have those rocks already broken, so when he takes his third, that'll be the nail in the coffin. I can just wait for him to transfer and crush it. But you want to go ahead and take just a quick peek, because, look at that. He already took it. He actually took this before he took his natural. And I went back and checked the replay. He took it. It's not like he took it during his push or anything like that. He made 2 orbitals in his base right after his push failed, realizing he needed to try and steal some macro back. And he floated the first one over when I didn't have good scouting going on. I must have not replaced the Zergling scout in time. Floated it over, and also did a medevac drop with 8 SCVs to get it started. So that was a pretty cool play on his part, which I could have really actually abused because I broke these rocks, but I never took advantage of it. So make sure if you do something deliberate like breaking these rocks, you go ahead and check just in case, even though the likelihood that he took it is very slim. This was one of those cases where it could have really paid off for me. Nevertheless, I do end up abusing these rocks later, so spoiler. Okay, back to my view, and here's this muta harass that, another thing, if you got mutas, just take a peek. Would have saved me so much trouble, because actually this game went on a lot longer than it needed to because I didn't catch that. Because he's already hurting macro-wise. If I would have caught that, he'd be down about 15 more SCVs and a command center. So at this point, I'm just rallying, and I'm trying to get even more ahead, as they always say on the GSL, which I swear by this, and I totally agree. If you're ahead, just get more ahead. You don't always need to do something crazy and go Carrick style with, tempo-based aggression for 10 minutes straight to win the game. As fun as it is, oftentimes it's better just to drone up, hit 70 or 80 drones, and just stomp them with constant removes. So now I'm up to 191 out of 192, and let's check Army here. This is where things are looking really good for me. 191 versus 111. And a lot of people by now would say, oh, you could have already won the game. Yeah, I could have already won the game. I agree wholeheartedly. I probably could have done a Baneling bust and won the game. But the important thing to consider is, would that Baneling bust have given me a higher probability of winning versus what I'm doing here? Probably not. I would say a Baneling bust maybe has an 8 out of 10 chance of winning. Whereas what I'm doing here, like I said, maybe 19 out of 20 chance of winning, something ridiculous like that. So he's a bit out of position. At this point, I decided, you know what, some aggression would pay off. Here's a missed micro on my part. I leave my mutas up to engage the Marines up there. So let's go back for a second. This is something a lot of players do, and I'm actually going to slow the game down a bit. I apologize for those who know what I did and know what the mistake was already, but this is still something I need to illustrate, you know, to keep everyone involved, and the master players can just tone me out for the next minute or so. So the Marines are, or the Speedlings are coming in, and I've got a great opportunity here to clear out some SCVs. But he's got a nice little perch set up here, and my mutas are optimally going to be DPSing the Marines while these Speedlings are soaking up the fire. But watch what happens here. Okay, this is all well and good. This is all well and good, and now I'm engaging with them. Wait a minute, my Speedlings are still running down here. Oh, okay, now these Speedlings are soaking up the fire. Make sure that you're keeping your mutas with the Zerglings at all times, because I lost about 5 mutas there that I didn't need to lose. And it's those little things that are really going to tip things in your opponent's favor. Notice my advantage was actually higher before this attack, but still this is hurting his economy. One other thing worth noting is he actually did get a drop while all this was going on, and I probably should have been covering that, but I was too busy being preachy. Pretty easy to clean up. I just grabbed my rally. I wasn't rallying to the engagement. It wasn't even necessary. I wasn't outright trying to kill him. I was just trying to set him back even more. And so, was able to remake my pool, and actually I think I forget to remake it for a second because I don't realize it died. But no harm, no foul. Really wasn't remotely comparable to the amount of damage I did to him. So, no big deal. And I did go ahead and transfer my drones up to mine up in my natural. Whenever you need to pull drones, make sure you pull them to a mining location, just in case you get preoccupied. You don't want idle drones sitting at your ramp or whatnot for the next minute and a half. That can be a lot of lost mining time, and it can be equivalent to a lost army typically. So my attack was pretty successful. I did lose a few drones to his drop, but nothing terrible. So 55 to 24. Why does the resources look goofy? Well, I was just transferring some drones. So no big deal there. And now we're watching to see how quickly can I remax. I'm floating 1,800 minerals. This is not so great. But given that I am running Speedlings, very Speedling heavy, and I've had the gold for a long time, it's relatively forgivable. So I'm actually remaxing a little bit on drones because I want to get up to 70 to 80 drones. I'm keeping the muta harassment. And holy crap, I've been on normal for a long time. I apologize for wasting your time, guys. I'm sitting there like, man, this is actually not moving fast. I don't have things to talk about, guys. So I'm trying to snipe this command center, and I almost do, but it's close enough. It's gonna probably burn down. I should have still taken that second shot. Good. He did actually let it burn down, but if he was playing tip-top, that wouldn't have burnt down. So, yeah, if you're gonna snipe a command center, make sure you finish it off. It can be kind of fun to let things burn down and just keep them occupied. But generally, if it's command center, it's worth it to take that last shot. All right, so here comes another push, and this is a pretty solid push. But I'm gonna go ahead and just keep it up before it even starts. And this is where that macro advantage really comes into play. Now, what I did was actually not good. I'm gonna actually say that I got a little greedy and a little antsy. I'm keeping him contained, which is fine. I'm keeping my lead. But you generally don't want to engage with Banelings off creep. I could have waited just a little bit longer, let him push right here, and then gone ahead and taken care of it. So keep that in mind. I'm taking out another orbital command, and at this point, I'm kind of like, okay, he's done. But then when I don't get the notification that he's out of command centers, then I know that I should have checked the third. So here comes what is left of the push, and look at that remax, just instantly. What is this? Units. About 100 Speedlings that I just remaxed. And that is what gets really fun here, is eventually you're just going to remax over and over. My float's looking a little grim, but I actually can fix that here relatively quickly. And this is really all it's about, is just trying to keep your resources down and just crushing every push you throws in. All the while keeping your harass up so that you can give yourself the most amount of it. You just drone up behind those harassments so that you know they can't leave their base. And wash, rinse, repeat. And eventually, yeah, it might take 26 minutes on a game that could have ended in 12 minutes. But eventually, you win the game. And I honestly do think that in a game where you've defeated a very, very dedicated push like this, where he was on one base for quite a while, this is going to be your best chance of success. Now, this rally actually was a big whoops. Okay, scouting. Oh, lost some meters. And then I actually left my rally set down here for quite a while. So that was kind of a whoops. But everybody makes mistakes, right? Missing some injections. Come on, inject. 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 At this point, I'm leaving idle drones as well. This is the point I get a little cocky, honestly. I should have been keeping up with my mechanics, but I did not. But that's okay. It's not coming back to bite me. But generally, you know, don't throw away your mechanics like transfusing your cleats until you X are done with the game. They've said GG, and you know they're about to play. So I clean that up, and I'm really not very good at play-by-play. I noticed that, so I apologize for that, guys. I'm more better, you know, I feel like my strength is definitely analysis, but the play-by-play, it almost feels pointless. You know, it's like, you know, I don't feel like I'm really accomplishing anything by going, and here comes some Zerglings, and oh my god, they're turning into Banelings. You know, it just feels very, I'll leave that to the guys who are good at it, because if I were to try and do it, it would probably just sound terrible. And so at this point, Axloth has given up, and the rest of this is kind of just, you know, playing around for him, I think. Floating a factory over to high ground, maybe even going to make a Hellion on it, because, nope, he's not going to make anything. That would be pretty cool to make a Hellion that's trapped up on that high ground. And, oh my god, a bunch of Banelings. And this is just me showing off, being a jerk. It is really fun to overkill your opponent when you've had a game like this. And that's kind of a little side bonus of this build. Or not this build, but this playstyle is. It allows you to finish your opponent off in just some grand move that just looks really cool. So we got a drop over here, while at the same time I've got Banelings rolling in, and he was actually going to keep dropping. The game has been long over. Yeah, about 30 supply for quite a while. But nevertheless, he wants to fight to the bitter end, so he goes to that. And transfuse, transfuse. Oh, do not lose the queen. In fact, I managed to top off my meters at the same time. So that's good fun. And he spells out the GG. So, pretty fun game. I hope this helped people. I know that this doesn't make for a entertaining game. I mean, it can be entertaining, but it doesn't make for the Carrick style, you know, there's constantly combat going on kind of situation that people are going to necessarily want to watch. But if your goal is to win, and your goal is to win as consistently as possible, then I really think this is going to be something that can help people out, because I've noticed a lot of people jump the gun, especially if there's a push coming like I did down here. A lot of people feel they are obligated to attack Terran. I got to break that push before it reaches critical mass kind of mentality. And that's not as realistic as you may think. There's always that remax that that Zerg has on their side, and Terran will never be able to compete with that, no matter how many barracks they make. Alright, so let's go ahead and quit out, and I want to check and see what rating he was. Later on in the game, he definitely let his place slip a bit, and he actually said in chat after the fact that he doesn't like the new temple, and so he was kind of just all inning it because of that, so maybe that had to do with it. Axloth. He was 3,400. Okay, so 3,400 master. Pretty solid. Pretty solid opponent for what I was up against. Although, or for where I'm at so far in my rating. My rating's actually still pretty low. Although I have noticed that Europe is a little bit easier than the US. Just a bit. So 970, not too bad. 42 and 21. Alright, so I guess that should be enough of me BSing. So, thanks for watching, guys. I'm actually going to probably keep casting my MLG practice, because I feel like I owe you guys some after the week that I went without anything. So, maybe I'll cast a little more than I planned on. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.